Hello, this is Christine Barton. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about this bill that passed in the House last night that's supposed to combat anti-Semitism, I suppose, empower the Congress to make the DOJ or whoever, or the Department of DOJ, the Department of Education, whoever, to tackle these colleges that are allowing some of this crazy stuff to go on. But they passed a bill that has some serious First Amendment concerns that a lot of people are speaking out against. Some people are saying that some of it is exaggerated, the response. But even folks who are like, obviously, like pro-Israel faces on the right, like Ben Shapiro, are saying like, oh, there's some issues with this. So we'll talk about that today. Try to put some things into perspective. I mean, I think there's maybe some. It's fair to say there's some exaggeration about it, but I don't think some people are doing it in bad faith. But I don't like it. And they should. There's plenty of ways that they can go ahead and enforce the law and stop bad behavior going on college campuses. And I don't know, something like this. Is it like? I don't know if it's going to do that much helping, and it could be more like virtue signaling. Also, I want to go through this snippet of a video with some independent women voters, allegedly independent voters, talking about Donald Trump and react to it. I saw people talking about it. I actually haven't watched it, so you're going to get kind of a fresh reaction from it. It's not too long, so we won't take up too much time, or we'll try not to take up too much time looking at it. And also, Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, more drama with the Daily Wire, because allegedly there's supposed to be a debate going on between the two after Candace, challenged him. But Glenn Greenwald is reporting that the Daily Wire slapped her with a gag order. So in public, they're saying, oh, there's going to be a debate, but privately, they're doing all this legal stuff. Now, Jeremy Boring has, he reached out to him for comment in the story. He said that the details or whatever in his reporting were false. So we'll go through that and see if we can piece some of the situation together. But before you jump into it, we'll encourage you guys to go to blacktunes.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktunes.com/donate, because it does cost a stream, run my website, all that stuff, so you guys can support. I do appreciate it. You guys can check out different merch that we have available at blacktunes.com, like black tea mugs and t-shirts and so on. So that does, help for sure. So I recommend that you do that. But you guys can also, if you're watching on Facebook, send stars. If you're watching on YouTube, you guys can send super chats. I do read super chats, as long as they're not like gross or something. I'll read the super chats. And if you're watching later, you guys can do super thanks. But the best way to give is to actually just go to the website. I will be at Motor City Comic Con, which will be this month, 17th, 18th, 19th. So if you're at the in the Metro Detroit area, and you're thinking about going there, I will have a table there. I'm in the first row of Artist Alley. They rearranged everything, so it's like flipped, and they have the artist like on the whole other end of the facility in Novi. So I'll be in row A somewhere. So next to like the cars and all that stuff. I don't know if it's a good spot, but we'll see. We shall see if it's a good spot. Hopefully I'll have a good weekend there, and my sister will be there with me as well. So hope to see you there. I don't have a funny for you guys. Something pretty funny to start off with. So I'm going to just go ahead and jump into this story, this concern. So the House went ahead and passed a bill that has a lot of people in a tizzy, because they're concerned with the definition of anti-Semitism, and people are saying that they're banning the Bible, specifically the New Testament. And it's not quite what's happening, but I already said, spoiler alert, I'm not fond of this, and a lot of people have spoken out and said that they're not fond of this. Um, but in regards to Title VI, they are including this definition, I guess, within the enforcement of how they're supposed to operate with Title VI, and they're referring their definition not with something that they sat down and they wrote themselves, but to an outside group. And some of the definitions within the group have okay definitions of anti-Semitism, but they go on to say other things like if you say the Jews killed Jesus or something like that. So that's where people are like, huh? So I'm I have issues with it. So Ben Shapiro, for example, he doesn't like Title VI at all. But if Title VI exists, then enforce Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act provides that no person in the United States shall, on the grounds of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefit of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. So, if these colleges are going to enforce Title VI, are they going to do that on behalf of the Jewish students? And do they operate unfairly? Like, would they allow all this intimidation to go on for Black students or Muslim students and so on, etc.? Probably for white students, probably. Which Ben mentioned, he's like, they've been doing stuff to white students for a while. So if Title VI is going to exist, then go ahead and enforce it. But if you're not, then well, maybe we need to do something about it. But there doesn't seem to be any sort of real movement to get rid of that. So Will Chamberlain, who's a lawyer, said, okay, the more I read about this House bill, the more it looks like everyone is severely overreacting to it. He said Donald Trump's executive order fighting anti-Semitism back in 2019 used almost the exact same language in almost exact same context. So he's not wrong. So he posted this executive order that Trump did years ago. Ensuring robust enforcement of Title VI and enforcing Title VI and identifying evidence of discrimination based on race, color, and national origin. All executive departments and agencies charged with enforcing Title VI shall consider the following: the non-legally binding working definition of anti-Semitism adopted May 26, 2016 by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, which states anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred toward Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, toward Jewish communities, institutions, and religious facilities. The contemporary examples of anti-Semitism identified by the IHRA, to the extent that any examples might be useful as evidence of discriminatory intent. In considering the materials described in subsections 1 and 2 of this section, agencies shall not diminish or infringe upon any right protected under federal law or under the First Amendment, As with all other Title VI complaints, the inquiry into whether a particular act constitutes discrimination prohibited by Title VI will require a detailed analysis of the allegations. So that's something that Trump signed some time ago. I don't know if you guys can. That's kind of. I'm gonna pick up my phone and read that because that's a little small for me. So I think if you're going to basically put in a definition of anti-Semitism in a bill to define it for the sake of enforcing Title VI, why not just write one yourself as opposed to why defer here to someone else's definition? And there's stuff that's fine, but are things like, you know, including, you know, things like saying Jews killed Jesus. So that those things are like in the New Testament. So Ben talked about that too. He was a little awkward to me when he was talking about it. But he said, yeah, those things should not be really considered to be anti-Semitism. Though you could use that disparagingly to people, in some kind of remark, obviously, like, you darn Jews, you killed Jesus, that's obviously a way to phrase it in a hateful manner rather than just expressing like a historical sort of fact, like reading from like Matthew or something, So there are definitely ways to take that. But again, if you're going to purpose something within the law with some kind of definition and how you're going to enforce Title VI and consider anti-Semitism, why not just write it yourselves, your big boys and girls, and you're trying to, you know, maybe in the long run defund these institutions. So why not just write the definition yourself instead of putting it on this other group? So that's a concern. So let me go ahead and read what is in the bill. That's pretty similar. For purpose of this act, the term definition of anti-Semitism. Let me scroll over. The definition of anti-Semitism adopted May 26, 2016 by the IHRA, of which United States is a member, which has been adopted by the Department of State and includes contemporary examples of anti-Semitism identified by the IHRA definition. In reviewing, investigating, or deciding whether there has been a violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act in 1964 on the basis of race, color, national origin, based on individual actual perceived shared Jewish ancestry or Jewish ethnic characteristics, the Department of Education shall take into consideration the definition of anti-Semitism as part of the department's assessment of whether the practice was motivated by anti-Semitic intent, to provide for the consideration of the definition of anti-Semitism set forth by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance for the enforcement of federal anti-discrimination laws concerning education programs or activities, and for other purposes be enacted by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled. The act shall be cited the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act of 2023. So I already read that part. So Will also said that, moreover, I don't see how this could be unconstitutional unless Title VI itself is unconstitutional, and that Very well, could just be the case. All it does is provide a rule of construction, which is just a way of saying, here's how you interpret what anti Semitism means when reading Title VI. It doesn't create a new substantive rights or causes of action. Basically, here's how I read it. The Title VI doesn't supersede the First Amendment, so tweaking the understanding of anti-Semitic discrimination within Title VI can't do that either. The substantive effect is that if you block Jews from campus on the grounds that they are Zionists, you will very clearly run afoul of Title VI in the same way that you would if you blocked members of racial group from campus. So, I don't think necessarily it's gonna be the end of the world or something. Is it gonna do much? I don't know. It could be just something that kind of feels more like virtue signaling. And our Congress people do that. They pass things to feel like they're kind of virtue signaling. Um Annette Stepman said people are misreading the bill, which is very easy to do in a quick skim. It's reiterating that certain actions, not speech, that amount to harassment of or discrimination under the Title VI also apply to Jews. Um, what's going on in these campuses, which they've already like rated out, like a lot of them, and police have been acting, and like Columbia and so on. And then some schools have already, I don't know, made concessions to get the encampments and stuff off. I think we're kind of at the time where people really don't like the optics, and the police are coming in and putting stuff kind of in order with these folks. They might still continue to do it. Um, but you really just, if they're trespassing, if they're breaking windows, they're taking over buildings, barricading stuff, if they're physically assaulting people, you know, that that should be grounds of them being arrested, expelled, though I don't know if they'll keep them. I don't know if they'll really expel them. I don't know how much we really expect these schools to do, because we talked about this yesterday. The students are radical, but so are many of these professors. The institutions are radical. And I don't see the Biden, you know, administration going that extra step to make sure that these radical institutions that are creating Democrat voters, that are churning them out, is going to just start defunding them when he's terrified that these people won't vote for him now. And the White House isn't saying much about all this stuff going down, which people are pointing out, like he was quick to say something during like like he launched his campaign on the whole Charlottesville anti-Semitic, well, white supremacy and stuff. But there's this moment where you have demonstrators who are using the Israeli war to be in to have a bunch of different stuff fit into their umbrella, really. But there is anti-Semitic stuff that's going on in the campuses, and it's not just stuff that's just recently been going on in the campuses. I've seen comments that people have made toward some of my friends who are Jewish, and it's not great, guys. So Biden isn't I don't know, he's like walking on minefields, around minefields, trying not to get blown up, but there are rakes everywhere. Like Sideshow Bob on Simpsons and stuff, and he steps on a rake and he turns around and there's another rake. So maybe he's avoiding some bombs here or there, but he's still getting pretty smashed up in the face. And so I just don't see them, even if they pass this bill. Is Biden going to sign it? Maybe, but they're not going to enforce anything that's going to lead to these colleges not having money. So I guess in short, it's not a great bill. I don't think it's as bad as maybe other people are saying, as what kind of effect it's gonna potentially have. But it maybe it's just really for show, because I don't think much is gonna happen from it. But some of the things, other things, how they described what they're getting their definition from, denying the Jewish people their right to self determination by claiming that existence of a state of Israel is a racist endeavor, applying double standards by requiring of it a behavior not expected or demanded of any democratic nation, using symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism claims of Jews killing Jesus or blood libel to characterize Israel or Israelis, drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of Nazis. So, um, yeah, it goes too far. It goes too far. So I think if they want a definition enforced, if we're going to go that route with Title 6, then just write your own freaking definition. And you don't have to defer to this one that has some okay examples, but other ones that people are uncomfortable with. And uh the whole I've seen people use Jews killed Jesus in a despair despairing way toward Jewish people, not as like a matter of, you know, biblical or historical fact, but to be, to issue condemnation. And it is, a fact that in Matthew 27, so when Pilate saw that he was gaining nothing but rather a riot was beginning, he took water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, I am innocent of this man's blood. See it to yourselves. And all the people answered, his blood be on us and all our children. Then he released from them Barabbas, and having scourged Jesus, delivered him to be crucified. Um, so that's just in the Bible and historical fact. But the Bible also says, talks about the Romans are the ones who put him up on the cross, though, and had him go through the torture. And it also says that no man could take his life. He laid it down and he had the power to pick it back up. So the greater sort of message is that humanity is responsible for this, I would say. But Jesus was willing to be the lamb who was slain, because humanity is imperfect, has always been imperfect, and not capable of saving themselves. We're not capable of reaching perfection, and perfection is what is demanded to get into heaven, but we can't reach that. We sin. We're all sinners. We're all responsible for our sin. So in order for that to be cleansed away, Jesus decided to pay the debt. You can't do it with the law. You can't do it with your actions. There's not just a ledger where you do enough nice things to somehow try to balance out the sin. You always have to pay for that sin, or someone has to. And Jesus decided to do that. So if you're using that in some kind of condemnation way toward your Jewish brethren, like, please just stop and pray. Pray, that there's a lot of Christ is King folks who have thrown that around, and throw Christ as King, not to really be edifying or to uplift God, but to uh use it as some kind of really political warfare, which, Nick Fuentes has pretty much said as much. I'm not gonna go into the whole thing today, but I wrote an article about the weaponization of Christ as King. There's some bad actors who use it, who, if they don't shape up, I would imagine one day God might say, "I never knew you. Depart from me." And that's a bad place to be in. My before I move on, my sister was teaching Bible study last week, and she said something um that was pretty profound, I thought. And she talked about how when she was young, she threw around the "you going to hell" a little too much. And I did too, but and and she would say things like, "I love you with the love of Christ." You know, if you see a stranger, whatever, like, "Oh, I love him with the love of Christ," or someone getting in there, "Well, I love him with the love of Christ." And she said that put the burden back on Christ instead of putting that burden on me to love that person. And I'm like, "Oh, that's really good." Because I've definitely used that line. And we have to have a burden for loving other people ourselves, and not just like, "Oh, God will do the work. God will do the work." But okay, well, what about you? You're his hands here on earth. You're the one who's that ambassador. You're the most Jesus some people will ever get to see. So if you're not acting out your faith in love and expressing love and getting the burden to feel love for other people, either even people who despise you, people who hate you, people who mistreat you, then you're messing up. Then you're messing up. Oh, Tina's in the chat. Yeah. Yeah. No, I thought it was quite good, because too many times we do push that off. Like, God's got you. But you know, what did Jesus say was the second greatest commandment? First one was to love, God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and the second one's to love your neighbor. And some people use love your neighbor to be like, basically let your neighbor do whatever and just affirm your neighbor. That's not what that necessarily means, because, excuse me, the Bible talks about love, and love doesn't rejoice in wrongdoing and other stuff. So a lot of times people try to use love your neighbor to just allow evil to slide. But it should mean being compassionate toward your neighbor and patient and kind and all that stuff too. So I know we all fall short of the glory, though. So in people's passionate defense of wanting to quote the Bible and it be historically accurate or whatever, I hope people aren't really, really upset about this because they just feel the need to be able to shout that to the Jews that, you killed Jesus. You know, a lot of people's hearts are not in the right place. But anyway, not a fan of this bill. I don't know what's going to happen in the Senate because it did get bipartisan support. So they'll probably pass it, but um I think, unfortunately, it fans the flames of there's anti-Semitic people on the left, certainly, but there's anti-Semitic people on the right, and they wouldn't claim that they are, and maybe not all of them are in the, but there's some questionable people in these well, there's the groupers and the some of these folks in the America First, just to be frank, um, and these sorts of bills that are poorly created, poorly crafted, rushed through, and lazy. I know it's not long, but it's still a little lazy. Um, it fuels them unnecessarily. But they pass bad bills all the time. What can you say? Anyway, moving on. I want to watch this snippet that I haven't seen myself, but people are talking about it. So I assume maybe these women say some crazy stuff, because I saw Scott Adams retweet it. And the caption was, he doesn't care about anyone except himself. Focus group of undecided North Carolina women voters rip into Donald Trump. And it's a CNN video. And what was funny about this snippet, this headline here, which I'm assuming these women will say, is that I once went undercover at a Democrat Party picnic. If you don't know that about me, one time I was I went to the picnic and people said that a lot. People said that a lot. Oh, he just doesn't care about anyone. But they didn't just say that about Trump. They said Republicans don't care about anyone. And I thought that was wild. I really thought that was wild. So I'm like, because I'm having conversations with these people and they're mostly okay. Um, Obviously we disagreed on some things and I found like ways around it, but we had like normal common interests. We all cared about our families, our friends, our communities. And so it was a little awkward when they're like, I assume we're all vaccinated. I'm like, you would think. Yeah, it totally wasn't. But if we're that concerned about being, at a picnic in a park outside, you know, go home. Don't be outdoors. But no, I wasn't back. Sorry, ladies. I'm still not. I survived. I made it through your oppression campaign. And but yeah, they kept saying things like that. Republicans don't care about anybody. Republicans don't care about people. And when you start saying that as if your opponents are just that selfish and narcissistic, you warp them to such a degree where you start to rationalize bad behaviors that you can take out against them because you're defeating someone who's just kind of evil. And it really gets you to a bad place when you feel like that. But like I said, we had like normal conversations, but it just threw me for a loop how these people reacted and what they said. And there was not a Supreme Court, but there was a Michigan Supreme Court justice there, Bernstein, who was there, and he's like, I love being a Democrat because he said something along the lines of we actually care about people. I put his clip on the on Twitter and on YouTube, I think somewhere. But I couldn't believe that as justice was saying that, because I've been to a lot of Republican events, obviously, and I've been to ones with justices talking, and I just had never heard a justice say something like that that was so blatantly, one-sided. And I thought that kind of thing was dangerous. And he also had a very odd opinion on what was the most important thing as a justice. So anyway, I wrote an article some time ago about that, and I'll repost it because it was a pretty interesting experience going there and listening to everybody talk. But the most fascinating thing, though, was when I tried to have a conversation with the Democrat Oakland County chair about critical race theory. This was pretty much in the height of like critical race theory conversations about having it in school, etc. And so they had mentioned that they wanted people to get in the races for school board because Republicans were mobilizing and so on, and about the critical race theory, etc. So I said, is this really a hill that Democrats want to die on? Because I've looked into critical race theory and it's just not good. And so I said, I don't know how much you know about it. And she said, I haven't really looked into it. So she admitted to me that she didn't know much about critical race theory. And so I started to try to explain a little bit. And so she just kind of got frustrated. She's like, you know what? It's just racism. It's just racism. It's just I've seen these people, they're foaming at the mouth. And I'm just thinking, I've seen these people. I know some of these very concerned parents. I've talked at events talking about critical race theory being in the schools and the media, how they're trying to push it and gaslight people about it and so on. And these are really concerned parents. They're not foaming at the mouth. But she, and this person was a white woman, was telling me that these people who were against critical race theory were racist. And I don't know how much of that was just her initial, like, this is the thing I'm supposed to say, that sort of programming, or how much was like intentional emotional manipulation. Because, like, tell the black person that the other folks are racist, and then she'll, of course, just believe me. But I don't know why you wouldn't defer to me, because I'm the one who had the knowledge of what critical race theory was, as opposed to her who did not. So I'm like, no, critical race theory is racist, is racist. And so she's just like, would you like to run for school board? And I took her card, but it was bizarre to me, the whole ordeal. And anyway, I'll post that article because it was fascinating back then. But that's what this headline made me think of. And people do say that this kind of stuff, and they do believe this kind of stuff. Not just with Trump, being the person who only cares about himself. Democrats, not all Democrats, but again, I went to Oakland County is a major, it's not as big as like Wayne County, obviously, but it is a pretty, big, well-known county in Michigan. And it was their party's picnic, and it wasn't like a small thing. They had the governor, the attorney general, and the secretary of state there that day. It was actually Gretchen Whitman's birthday. We sang her happy birthday. So anyway, here's this clip. Let's watch this together.
It's not the catch and kill that's the issue. Mm-hmm. It's the cover up that's the worst part. It's the devil's in the cover up.
Well, let's put it this way. The accountant and me, the numbers don't add up. Okay? The math is not mathing.
He completely sees himself as Teflon. Like, he does, nothing sticks to him. And I'm really nervous that he's starting to look like he's right.
One of these is going to have to take him down. I just can't see how you slither out of 90 plus charges.
How many of you believe that Trump should be on trial for this? Raise your hand. All of you.
There is not only smoke, there is fire.
How many times can you say it's a witch hunt? I'm personally tired of hearing it.
So if he's misappropriating campaign funds or, election funds, then yeah, he needs to be prosecuted.
If we have one person who is above the law, then what is the purpose of the law? Your accountant wrote it down,
right?
Recorded it. You got witnesses who said you did it.
It's not about who he's paying for, what he's paying for.
That's the inequality even in this story, because the porn star, we're characterizing and castigating the women.
Right.
They were doing a job.
So prosecutors say that Trump has violated his gag order, attacking prosecutors, witnesses, jurors. Does any of this surprise you?
This person has something more powerful than money. He has an audience. He has a rabid audience that is very willing to do whatever they want. So then, does even $1,000 per violation, or going to jail for any period of time, is that enough given his influence?
He's going to have to go to solitary because Secret Service cannot protect him in general population.
I don't care. Put him under the jail. Put him in solitary. We do not shriek from putting other inmates in solitary confinement.
Right.
That's put him there and shut up. He can talk to the walls. He can talk to the rats. I don't care.
When it comes to your president, do ethics matter?
Yes.
The leadership of the free world? Yeah, ethics matter. Of course they matter.
He doesn't care about his
family.
He
care at
He doesn't care about anyone except himself.
Some of those stories.
So that was a snippet that's going around on Twitter. Again, to say something like Trump or anybody, I mean, maybe some people don't care about anyone but themselves, but this idea that Trump only cares about himself, now maybe he doesn't care enough about a lot of other different people. I wish he would do more for at least last I heard anyway. I guess I have to get some kind of update about the electors cases and stuff. I wish he would do more for some of these other people who put themselves out there for his benefit after the election. But you guys don't think he cares about his wife, or you don't think he cares about his kids? You don't think he cares about his employees? Because you can listen to people like Lynn Patton talk about how the Trump family really helped her, you know, and they've inspired loyalty from a lot of different people for good reason. Trump has been very charitable throughout the years, even in times where nobody had to know about it. We went to a event where Paula White was speaking, and she was talking about how like Trump was she claimed that she never took like money from him, and the Lord told her not to, because that's not how he wanted the relationship to be. But like she one time, I think she had like a group of different like people come in who had some kind of charity, whatever, and Trump was like, listen to a little bit of it. I was like, oh, okay, let me give you some money here. And then he had other like business people with him. He's like, you need to write them checks right now, So this idea that he doesn't care about anybody is just not true. It's just not true. But when you start characterizing your enemies in that kind of way, then when you see crazy kind of charges come down at him, or other sort of, I don't know, allegations or attacks, you start to care a little bit less, because you kind of dehumanize. I don't know if dehumanizing is the right kind of word, but you painted him as such a villain, a cartoonish sort of villain, not even like a really good anime one or something, like or like a Disney one. It's just they think he's like a Hitler level kind of evil, but like slapstick sort of ridiculousness to him. Like they don't take serious him as a person, yet they attribute so much malevolence to him. It just doesn't fit into like a real sort of person at all. But I didn't know originally this video with them talking was going to be about the Bragg indictment, and most people think that the Bragg indictment, even as it came down, we're just like, this is a witch hunt. Now, I think there's other cases, if they were talking about, that you could say has some more merit. The classified documents case, I think one has more merit. I think it's probably the one that has the most merit. The Georgia case, which perhaps because of Fani Willis will probably, who knows, it'll see the light of day. She really screwed the pooch with that. I don't think how she structured the charges probably were correct, or the right sort of move, maybe politically the right sort of move. Maybe she can get a conviction on the ways that she framed it in a fair, justice, ethical kind of way. Do I think it was right? Probably not. But my concern about that going on trial is some of the things that they would probably discuss about Trump's actions leading after the election would probably make him not look great, and would be cannon fodder in a campaign. So but the Bragg stuff, but when the Bragg indictment first came out, there was, I don't remember the numbers, but I did report it at the time. But there was a lot of people, independents, who thought that it was political prosecution. But an alarming amount of the independents still were like, I don't care. because a lot of them still don't like Trump. Now, they claim that these were like undecided voters. They don't sound like undecided voters to me. If you're talking about, I don't care if you put them under the jail, who are you undecided about? You're gonna maybe vote for the person who you want them to throw under the jail? I don't think you're undecided. I think you've probably decided, and you're probably either gonna vote for Joe, or you're not. You're probably wrestling on how much you don't want to vote for Joe. If you want to call yourself undecided, I don't think you're probably leaning toward the Trump direction. So I think that room of women were probably a farce. You could say where there's smoke, there's fire. Sure, you could say that. But just because Trump hasn't always acted in the smartest sort of manner. He always hasn't acted in the most ethical sort of manner. And eventually, they've been trying to get him for the longest time, for them saying, finally, we're going to get one that sticks. Finally, we're going to get something that sticks. Well, they've been trying that basically since, he decided that he was going to run for president. Russia collusion was supposed to take him down. His taxes were supposed to take him down, and et cetera, et cetera. And nothing has quite stuck the landing yet. So just the number of the 91 doesn't make it true just because it's a large number. Do you guys recall when people were saying that all these intelligence agencies agree about like Russian interference, or like 16 intelligence agencies or 17 intelligence agencies or whatever? And Trump was just like, no, that's not true. And people were like, oh, how dare you say that? And it wasn't true. There was like 4 agencies that said that, and basically, I guess all the other ones kind of tagged along. But I'm just like, why would all of these different intelligence agencies look into this? To me, it didn't make sense, but people were so adamant about it because the number was important to them. It's like 16 intelligence agencies. Okay, if it's true, you only need to. If the information is true, all you would need is 1, and maybe 2 for backup. 4, okay. But the need for it to be 16, just have the overwhelming amount to say, look at this person, look how bad they are, or look how true this is, because we just have this mob mentality. So weaponizing that 91, I'm sure that's why there's so many, because they want it to be overwhelming, the number. But that doesn't mean that any one of them is going to stick. Now that's all going down in New York, so he might be in trouble. That's not good. That's not good. That I'm like, where it's happening kind of matters, because our justice system shouldn't act like that. But we'll see. But and I don't know about his lawyers. I don't know what kind of team he has around him. There's some I'm like, So we'll see how good some of his lawyers are, and how they can get him out of it. But yeah, I don't think that's a room of undecided women. Anyway, let's move on. Last thing I want to mention today is that Glenn Greenwald is reporting that the Daily Wire publicly negotiated a debate with Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro, but secretly they obtained a gag order against her. So I guess the allegation is they're not really gonna. They're saying they're gonna have a debate, but they're not really gonna. How can they have a debate if they're doing a gag order on her? So they're just trying to save face. Now, I I hope Jeremy Boring, I know he like provided a quote for Glenn, was basically like the stuff is untrue. I hope this is a very messy situation for them, this public falling out. And I'm sure they would rather rip the band-aid off and get over this as fast as kind of possible. But obviously it's not. And Candace is going to, there's just going to be some milking, if there can be some milking, and maybe that could be true for both sides. But I think, and I have maintained, and you guys have heard me say this for a while, that they should have just had it out from the very beginning. The two of them should have sat down and they should have debated their issues. When Candace Owens was saying stuff and Ben thought it was dumb, like, she should just had him on her show and they should have talked about it and talked some of the stuff out. She had Ami on, and Ami Kozak, in my opinion, some people are like, oh, that was a great conversation. I listened to him like, man, Candace looks like a fool. That was my takeaway. And I did a long video about like their beef, and it detailed from like the commentary from like the October 7th stuff up until like November when she went on maternity leave. So it gave pretty full detail stuff on like their blow up when she tweeted at him and he said stuff about her and so on. So if you got some time, if you haven't watched it, I recommend that you do watch. It's got a lot of quotes, a lot of tweets, a lot of videos from her show. It goes through her history of like being accused of anti-Semitism, falsely, I would say. The tension between them with like the Kanye stuff, and then going forward. So she has a suspicion, you could even say prejudice, of folks who would use this charge of anti-Semitism. I would say since then she's definitely done some things that have gone in the deep end, which I shed no tears because she was fired. I think it was a good move, especially some of the stuff that she started putting on her show. But since leaving Daily Wire, people wanted to know why she got fired. Now, Andrew Clavin made some comments in the video. And he didn't say for sure why she got fired, but he made some charges of her verging on anti-Semitism. And there were some things she did on her show that I was like, but Ben and Jeremy won't be specific. They'll talk about things kind of in general, but they won't be specific. And I would assume that there is some kind of gag on the both of them to a degree, and in an NDA or some kind of agreement to not discuss this stuff. And I say that because even in the video that I did back in November's when I posted it, I showed a video of Ben Shapiro, because we're like, well, what's going to happen now? I'm like, I don't know, because Ben was asked by a group like, can you say anything about Candace Owens or that kind of beef? And he's like, I cannot say anything about it. And then he repeated that later to other groups. And then as he's talking about it, he's in interviews after Candace getting fired, he's like, I can't talk about it. You can ask, I can't talk about it. Because Piers Morgan asked, Dave Rubin asked, and he's like, I can't talk about it. So I'm pretty sure they had some kind of agreement about not being able to talk about it. And Candace hasn't just flat out said it herself. So I'm assuming she can't talk about it. And she has said things about Ben talking, not specifically about her getting fired, but stuff kind of relative toward the topic. And she accused him like kind of breaking the agreement or alleging that he was kind of doing that. And so she probably has broken the agreement in some kind of way or touched on it, breaking it with some of the comments that she's made, even like in the debate challenge. Because as Ben was going out talking about stuff, she kind of tweeted out in the atmosphere like, "Oh, I like to have a debate with Ben about anti-Semitism and I think Israel, the Gaza war, and the definition of anti-Semitism, I think was a challenge, and Ben accepted the challenge. As he accepted it, and they were going back and forth, and so he wanted her to come on the show, and they would just sit down and have a conversation. And she had tweeted out, I'm sure you can appreciate why I'd prefer to keep this off Daily Wire platform, as well as the true reason why we were never able to make any discussion happen. Let's choose a neutral, trustworthy platform. I vote for Patrick Bet David, which then they went back and forth after that. But I think I don't know, people are kind of thinking that this tweet could have probably gotten her in trouble if they had some kind of agreement, because she is alluding that there's something behind the scenes that kept them from actually being able to sit down. And I would assume that maybe they're not allowed to talk about that, which Ben said, I don't know what you're talking about, as a response to them not being able to sit down. So I wish all of this was, you know, I guess it's not all of our business. You know, people have different falling outs all the time. People get fired and rehired, etc., and new employers and so on. So I guess it's kind of not everybody's business, but I mean, that's one thing when you decide to do things in Twitter on Twitter, kind of becomes, you know, a conversation for all. So after this tweet, she had Ben didn't accept going on Patrick Bet David show, because they had called, you know, it the Daily Wire Israel Wire or something, some kind of comment. So but basically he didn't find her suggestion to be really neutral, and he said something along the lines of, I see why you'd want to hide behind a moderator, but we can sit down and have a conversation. So she didn't, and so she issued the challenge on Friday night. So Ben does, you know, the Sabbath. So sun goes down, he goes offline. So when their conversation basically ended, well, his part of it, he was like, Monday, you can come here to the studios and we can debate. Just the two of us sit down, have a conversation. I expect you on Monday. Bye. And so then at that point, Jeremy Boring came in and started negotiating with Candace, and they had it back and forth. And so he's like, some people are like, you guys just want to make money. He's like, we won't monetize it. And he's like, we can stream it on X. And if you don't want our staff to film it, you can pay for it yourself. You're rich, which she is rich. She married a very rich man. And she does have money herself, but it eventually they came to an agreement. And so Candace said something about the debate recently. She's like, oh, you guys want to know what happened? And so apparently her team suggested a date, like a date or whatever, some dates, but they were like during the Passover time. And she's like, well, Ben couldn't do it because of the holiday. And I'm kind of like, well, yeah, he couldn't do it because of the holiday, because of Passover. It's kind of a big deal. And so then nothing kind of came after that, which I found that update a little curious, because they said that they would handle it offline or whatever. And I haven't seen Ben respond to anything about the debate either. So now there's a story by Glenn that Candace has had like a gag. So I'm gonna read through it with you guys really quickly. Now Glenn has been a big critic of Ben's take, and he is not too fond of Israel's response with October 7th and all that stuff. So I'm not saying he's not a good journalist, but I would say he's biased though. We all have a bias, but I would say he's a bit biased in this situation. That doesn't mean it's not accurate. But Boring said that he's denying some of this take is accurate though. Candace Owens publicly invited her former Daily Wire colleague Ben Shapiro to debate about Israel and the current definition of anti-Semitism, which I just want to throw out there. To me, it doesn't make sense to not debate her because the only real danger I would think for Ben is I think Candace would be really good at getting under his skin, and Ben has been in situations where well, he like rage quit a debate in the UK. That for the longest time, if you searched his name on YouTube, that was the first thing that popped up. I'm like, you guys are so dirty. But so there's definitely a way for her to come out, taking it a W. But as far as the content of like the Israel war and stuff, Candace Owens just maybe you guys are fans, but I followed like a lot of stuff that she said pretty close, especially like researching and compiling my stuff. And I thought her commentary was just embarrassing to be frank, and there's things that she keeps repeating that are frankly lies, and I just think that he would, especially if you ask the right questions, that he would just wallop her. And I didn't want to see them have a moderator because I'm like, I don't know if the moderator will ask the right questions. I just rather Ben ask them respond to each other and just have a conversation and kind of really grill her on some of the decisions that she made, the conversations that she made. Why didn't she push back on Norman Finkelstein when he, downplayed or denied like the rapes and stuff going on at October 7th and so on? And she gave way more pushback to Ami, who was a comedian, than like Norman. And like she had to know at this point some of the horrific things going on. Did she not believe them? Did she not research it? And did she not research what Norman had said after October 7th? Basically, his attitude was like, you got what you deserved. So I question a lot of things going on with Candace and her takes and why she wants to go the route that she's been going. But I would think that Ben would wallop her in a debate about this. So to think that Daily Wire is dodging a debate because anyone's scared, like a mutual of mine said that Ben only debates kids. I'm like, it's not true. He does go on a lot of college campuses and debates young adults, by the way. Which, by the way, some adults go there and are professors and will ask questions and still not be able to get, one over on Ben. And you know what? I was a pretty smart young adult myself, and I could out debate many adults as an 18, 19-year-old. Sometimes your age doesn't matter. It's just your knowledge and how much you adore critical thinking. But he does debate adults, and he could definitely debate Candace. I don't think they're concerned or afraid about debating her. But anyway, it was Owens' criticism of criticism of U.S. financing of Israel and her criticism of Israel's war in Gaza that caused her departure from Daily Wire 2 weeks earlier. That's, I don't know how you can make that claim. If I keep pausing during this article, it's going to take too long to read through it. But this isn't true. Candace went beyond just criticizing Israel, U.S. financing Israel or their handling of the war. They could have like sacked her back in November if that was the case. But the stuff that she's done in the new year was like progressively worse. And there's the allegations of the Jewish gangs. There's the liking of the tweet about someone drinking the blood of Christians. there was the segment that she did about the Nazi book burnings that kind of seemed like it was positive. Like, oh, the Nazis burned these bad books. I'm like, yeah, they burned a lot of good books too. So I think there's a compilation list. I would be surprised if her alleging that the First Lady of France being a man didn't play a role in her being fired. So Glenn hasn't I think that's that's a claim that Glenn cannot back up, just to just name those two things. Matt Walsh, shares like similar opinions about like the financing. He's more of an isolationist. Um all of them have criticized Israel in some kind of regard of how they run their government and so on. So it's not just it's just not it can't be just that. It's not just that. So bias, I'm sorry. Both Shapiro and Daily Wire CEO Jeremy Boring responded by saying that they would like to arrange the debate requested by Owens. That night, Shapiro appeared to accept her offer, writing on X, "Sure, Candace, I texted you on February 29th offering this very thing." The Daily Wire co-founder added, "Let's do it on my show this Monday at 5 p.m. at our studios in Nashville, 90 minutes live streamed." After Owens objected to the format and timing, she and Boring exchanged several tweets in which they appeared to be negotiating and then agreeing to the terms and format for the debate. Owens had suggested the debate be moderated by Joe Rogan or Lex Friedman. Shapiro said he wanted no moderator. They ultimately agreed to the terms, with Boring offering a series of conditions, including a no moderator debate, and with Owens publicly accepting. 2 weeks later, many readers of both Shapiro and Owens noticed and complained that the debate had not yet happened. On April 24th, Owens addressed those inquiries by explaining that the Daily Wire had yet to propose dates, while reiterating her strong desire to ensure the debate happened. And again, she had proposed dates that were apparently around Passover, but the debate was never going to happen. That is because the Daily Wire, to say that it was never going to happen, I just don't believe if she had show up on Monday, they would have been like, "Oh, sorry, no debate." That is because the Daily Wire, in secret and unbeknownst to its readers, sought a gag order to be placed on Owens after she had called for a debate. They did this under the cover of secrecy before a private arbitrator, at exactly the same time that they were claiming in public that they wanted this debate and were even negotiating the terms with her. To this date, the Daily Wire has not informed its readers seeking to understand why the much anticipated debate had not yet happened that they had sought and obtained a gag order against Owens. When seeking a gag order to be imposed on Owens, the Daily Wire accused her of violating the non-disparagement clause and her agreement with the company. To substantiate this accusation, the company specifically cited Owens' initial tweet requesting a debate with Shapiro as proof of this disparagement, along with concerns she voiced that Shapiro had appeared to be violating the confidentiality agreement between them, publicly maligning Owens' views to explain her departure from the company. That's probably separate from the whole them having a debate, but she did throw out that there was some kind of thing that was blocking them before from having a debate. So she threw out, I don't know exactly what their agreement was, but there is obviously something that is muzzling them both to a degree. That's out there. So she probably did violate that. That doesn't mean that they can't have a debate. While the company claimed, and she could have just texted Ben. She didn't have to do it publicly. And she could have just talked about the debate and not these other things. While the company claimed before the arbitrator that it did not object in principle to a healthy debate, it urged the imposition of gag order on Owens by claiming that the way she requested the debate constituted disparagement of Shapiro and the site. She did though. To justify the gag order it wanted, the company also cited various criticisms of the Daily Wire and Shapiro on X that Owens had liked. This proceeding took place as part of an exchange of legal threats between the parties After the public agreement to debate about Israel was solidified, those threats arose from the fact that various Daily Wire executives and hosts in both public and private were castigating Owens as an anti-Semite. I could make that case. On March 22nd, Daily Wire host Andrew Klavan published a 1-hour video that hurled multiple accusations, including anti-Semitism at Owens. The Daily Wire cited Owens' response to that video, her defense of herself from those multiple accusations, as further proof that she needed to be gagged. She did respond to some stuff. Andrew Klavan's video, it was an hour, but his show is an hour. He didn't I don't believe he talked about her the whole entire time. He did talk about her though. He did talk about her though. He did. Absolutely he did. The initial tweet from Owens not only requested a debate, but also included a video from the popular comedian Andrew Schultz, who had mocked the Daily Wire for firing Owens over disagreements regarding Israel, and specifically mocked Shapiro for his willingness to debate only undergraduate students. This tweet underneath Owens' original debate request included a summary of Schultz's mockery of Shapiro, which stated Schultz now realizes Ben Shapiro's only good at debating college liberals and can't win debates against serious competition, which I would say Candace Owens is not. After the prior restraint hearing sought by Daily Wire and Shapiro, the arbitrator sided with them, and against Owens, the arbitrator agreed with the Daily Wire that Owens' call to debate Shapiro and her follow-up negotiations of the debate constituted disparagement of the company and Shapiro, and the company argued that any further attempt by Owens to debate, as well as her suggesting that the debate would expose the Daily Wire's real priorities, constituted criticisms of the site of Shapiro, criticisms that the arbitrator concluded Owens was barred from expressing under her contract with the company. The arbitrator thus imposed a gag order of prior restraint on Owens. Among other things, the order banned Owens from saying or doing anything in the future which could tarnish or harm the reputation of the Daily Wire and or Ben Shapiro, given that the Daily Wire had argued and the arbitrator agreed that Owens' offers to debate Shapiro about Israel and anti-Semitism were themselves disparaging. The Daily Wire has ensured that the debate with Owens that they publicly claimed to want could not in fact take place. Any such debate would be in conflict with the gag order they obtained in Owens from expressing any criticism of the site or Shapiro. When asked for a comment to be included this story, Owens replied, "I wish I could comment on this, but I can't." She added, "Can neither confirm nor deny." Boring said, "Your story is inaccurate to the point of being false." Though he did not specify a single inaccuracy, nor did he deny that the Daily Wire had sought and obtained a gag order on Owens. At the same time, they were publicly posturing as wanting a debate with her. The confirmation we obtain on all of these facts is indisputable. Boring added, "I'm sure you can appreciate how fraught a high-profile breakup like this is. For that reason, we are trying to resolve our issues with Candace privately." It certainly seems to be true that the Daily Wire is attempting to achieve all this privately. Nonetheless, Ben Shapiro has constructed this very lucrative media brand persona based on his supposed superiority in debating, a reputation cultivated largely as a result of numerous appearances at undergraduate schools around the country where he intrepidly engages with students who are often in their teens or early 20s. Both Shapiro and Daily Wire have also predicated their collective media brand on eagerness to engage in free and open debate with anyone and to vehemently oppose any efforts to silence people, especially those in media, from expressing their political views. Again, Ben does, they do go to college campuses because these college campuses do invite them. And same thing with Charlie Kirk. Candace Owens goes to colleges to talk to these kids. And but Ben has been on panels with adults, has been in aggressive panels with adults. He went on Piers Morgan's show and may or may not have destroyed it with his gun debate. He sat on a debate with the gender stuff, and a man dressed as a woman put his hands on him and asked him, did he want to go home in an ambulance? You know, that was where Facts Don't Care About Your Feelings was born. He's debated Shank at Politicon and so on. So the biggest L that I've seen him take was when he went on the UK program, and he didn't understand kind of like how the rules in the UK work. Like they have to be, I think neutral or whatever, or express both sides. And he didn't understand that whether the guy was like a liberal or conservative or whatever. And he just ended up getting frustrated and kind of rage quitting, which was very embarrassing for him. So embarrassing. But this idea as if like the criticism from Schultz and other folks, like as if Ben doesn't have conversations with people, that he doesn't take phone calls on his show, or that he doesn't invite people on, different Congress people who are from the other side of the aisle, or that he doesn't have it's just not true. It's just not true. And if he was concerned about anyone, I don't think it would be Candace. Again, she could probably dig and get under his skin, sure. And but her commentary has not been very smart on these issues. So I just, if someone has it in their mind, the Daily Wire is just trying to save Ben from having a conversation with Candace Owens because she would just own him, that there's no way in reality that can be true. There's just no way. No, there's absolutely no way. Now, is there things that they, I guess, will want to make sure that within the company or whatever, other things outside of the debate that they don't want maybe to come out? Maybe that's part of like the gag, but she kind I can see her doing the things that they probably said that they did in the orders. Let me see. It was Boring responded to calls from Israel supporters for Candace Owens to be fired by proclaiming in November, even if we could, we would not fire Candace Owens because of another thing we have in common, a desire to not to regulate the speech of our hosts. I remember when he tweeted this. Even when we disagree with them, Candace is paid to give her opinion, not mine, not Ben's. Unless those opinions run afoul of the law, she violates the terms of her contract in some way. Her job is to secure, and she is welcome at Daily Wire. But a mere 4 months later, Owens, despite being one of the company's most popular hosts, was out. The company had concluded that her increasingly vocal criticisms of Israel, opposition to U.S. financing of it, and her views on anti-Semitism were incompatible with the Daily Wire's policies. All of those issues would likely have been the subject of public debate that Owens sought and the Daily Wire claimed to want. Instead, the Daily Wire succeeded in obtaining a gag order on its face, prevents Owens in advance from questioning or criticizing the Daily Wire or Shapiro in any way. So, I would say again that if the implication is that she was fired for her opinions on Israel, it is deeper than that. It's got to be deeper than that. If you go back to the time when Kanye West was saying stuff, and there was the DEFCON 3 comment, and other things he was saying like I guess the Jews made Kim Kardashian strip naked, or she was saying all kinds of kind of crazy stuff. I have it documented in that video I did back in November, the whole Kanye saga too. But if you recall, there was Ben Shapiro said he was upset that Candace didn't say, Kanye said some bad stuff. Like, he understood that Kanye is her friend and she doesn't want to like bash her friend, but she can say, I'm going to stand by my friend, but he said some trash stuff. And he didn't like how she, pretended to be kind of confused on the matter and stuff. And really kind of try to defend him and so on. And he didn't like how she responded, but he did say that if Candace had said what Kanye had said, then Candace would not be working at the Daily Wire. So it's not that they would allow anyone to come on their program and say whatever. He told you what would have been like something along the lines of fireable offenses. And Candace Owens, was getting to that point with them where it was really uncomfortable to keep her hired there. And people are just not being honest if they think it's just about criticism of Israel itself. Like I thought her reporting was kind of sketchy before this year began, but she had some whoppers this year, including the the whole French, first lady being a man and staking her whole career on that. That was rather bold, but there's other things that she did. Again, liking the tweet about the Jewish man who's not a good dude, saying the line about drinking blood of Christians. She got fired. Like, they let her go pretty quickly after that. She did some commentary on her show about Jewish gangs, and that Nazi book burning segment was very strange, and I'm sure there's more. And and on top of everything else that happened. So and I would say since then I think they've been more justified in it. When Nick Fuentes was on Lauren Chen's podcast or whatever, not podcast, but space, talking about the Crisis King subject, Nick was talking about how he criticized Jeremy Boring at one point for having Ben Shapiro be the face of the Daily Wire, even though he won't say Christ is king. Well, Ben is a Jewish person. He doesn't believe Christ is king. And Nick had some interesting ideas about what Christ is king is supposed to mean and so on. But he said some off the wall stuff. And I don't know if Candace Owens listened to the entire live, which was like 3 hours long. But then she started, saying that, oh, Nick said some very interesting things and he was smeared as an anti-Semite. And I'm like, I would not be saying things that made it look like you were even neutral on Nick or positive in Nick or taking his side after saying some of the stuff that he did. He was someone who said the Charlottesville March rally was an incredible night and they will not replace us. I just, wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. But there she is, tap, tap, tapping. So, I absolutely think it was a good thing that they cut ties, and they probably should have did it sooner. And I know a lot of people love Candace, but, sometimes you got to let stuff you love go. Sometimes you got to let stuff go. So, anyway, it's absolutely fine if you want to criticize how people are conducting war. Again, Ben has criticized Israel himself. He has a video. He gave a talk about things that Israel needed to do. And he listed how different policies and how they ran their government in ways that he did not like. Boring has criticized Israel, how they run their government. Matt Walsh doesn't really care about international sort of stuff. He cares more about cultural things in the US and how we spend our money here and focus on our people here. I would assume Knowles, I think, shares some similar sorts of ideas as Matt. Maybe isn't as much as an isolationist, but it's not just criticism of Israel. It's not. So and I think some of the stuff that Clavin said was valid. Maybe some of it was running off of emotion, for sure. But I don't know what her whole game is, but I don't think Glenn some of his details are probably his details are probably, I don't know if his assertions are correct. His assertions are probably wrong. Some of these details are probably true in his story. But to pretend like she just got fired for the Israel stuff is just not accurate. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation. You guys are looking at the comments. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation, blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost to stream, run my website, all that stuff. If you like what I do here, I think I already said that. I'm sorry, I'm distracted. Check out different merch on the website. Please check out different books that I have, like my book, Slay Your Fear, How to Overcome a Spirit of Fear. I started writing that because of COVID. It's not about COVID, but man, people were acting crazy and needed to get it together. So that was one of the books that I made. I also have, of course, God is Blatant Gets Abortion. That's one of my other nonfiction books, which deals, of course, with theology, but also rights and science and philosophy and politics and so on. So it's a good book. I recommend you check it out. And I do have many other books. I have 17 altogether. So I just have the 2 nonfiction and the rest are fiction. I'm about to come out with my 18th one. So I'm very excited. Very excited. And it's always a nice feeling when you got another one to go. So God bless you guys. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.